Real quick before I jump into it, if you guys want to check it out, I might be streaming on Twitch even as of right now when the video goes live. If you guys want to come say hi, hang out, whatever it may be, and watch some Blackout or whatever we may be playing, link is down there in the description below. But that said, back to the regular scheduled content. Today for Xbox One and PC users, you ended up getting the introduction of Down But Not Out, a brand new game mode or limited time mode within Blackout that is honestly a tremendous amount of fun. It's not the only changes and additions coming here in the next couple of weeks to months within Blackout. We'll talk about a few of those later on, but it is a mode where you might start to enjoy the hectic nature and pace of the game mode, but either as a newcomer to Blackout or somebody who absolutely adores the mode, one thing that you'll likely notice, especially come late game, is one of the biggest problems in regards to what a lot of the community sees with Blackout at the moment. And it's one that is such a balancing act that I don't envy anybody in the position that has to make the decisions here for this, because you can't please everybody, but it is something that you may very well notice the situational use and potential problem that concussions in Blackout in particular end up posing. If you follow me on Twitter, I've had my fair share of dissatisfaction with the utility item, and it's one that never fails to frustrate me when I die to somebody who inevitably spams me and then gets a free kill out of it. And at a certain point, whenever you're getting spammed so much, I just like an option to queue up for the next game, because as soon as I hear that little tink noise of the canister on the ground, I know it's game over. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the concussion problem in general, some of the things that were said and clarified by David Vonderhaar himself. We got a little bit more clarity as to the upcoming roadmap for concussions, and then also some other changes later on in the video that may actually be pertinent to Blackout as well. But it is something that this might not be your standard update video, but instead kind of alerting you of a situation, telling you exactly what we know at the moment and what might become of it in the future. That said, for those of you guys that may not be familiar with the issue and why those that play the mode religiously have an irritation towards concussions, I'll break it down for you a little bit. One argument that I've seen as of recently is that if there's such a problem, why is nobody complaining about them in multiplayer? And the answer is bluntly put, they're not the same. When you compare the two at their cores in multiplayer and Blackout, they're completely different types of concussions. Not only in just performance, not only in just counters, but also the all-around consequences that they have. There's three core fundamental pieces of what the concussions pose in MP and Blackout that are completely different. In multiplayer, when you have a concussion as an equipment item, you not only sacrifice your special ability, which we'll come back to in just a second, but when stunned, your vision is blurred, but you're relatively unimpaired outside of that. Your movement is minimal, but still manageable, and your ability to fire back, of course, well, that's still completely screwed up. You have one hand on your face and you can only hip fire. When it comes to counters, you have Tac Mask, which counters in full the entirety of that concussion and is never off so long as you have a class chosen with that perk on. As for the consequences, well, they're not too dire. All that happens is you die and you respawn, and then you're back in the action and winning with your team in less than 10 seconds. But as for Blackout, this is where it becomes a great difference in how it plays. A concussion not only stuns you, but it fully blinds you for a good 6-7 seconds. 9 bangs were completely removed from Blackout for that very reason. It was too much, but instead they took a concussion that, if I'm not mistaken, used to work exactly like multiplayer, and the clip you'll see on screen right now is reference of that. They ended up taking out the 9 bang, they buffed the stuns to which it blinds and immobilizes the player while offering no ability to accurately fire back. And whereas in multiplayer you had a complete perk that made you consistently impervious to this, there's no such thing within Blackout outside of a perk that lasts only 120 seconds, Reinforced being that. Now, again, with Reinforced being a 120-second perk, that for sure late game is easy to gauge, but the other 18 or so minutes leading up to that, when you randomly could find a player camping in a bush or something, you have absolutely no idea when a good time is to pop that Reinforced, and it's not as frequent of a spawn as a concussion or other items, so it's not like you can chain them together. And instead of just respawning back into the game, you waste upwards of 20 minutes because of a single utility item that's available out of pure random chance. And also, coming back to that sort of picking and choosing thing, if you take it in MP, you have to sacrifice your specialist ability, which I don't think that I've seen anyone do this in multiplayer to my recollection. I think maybe at the most, I've been concussed once since the game launched, and maybe even well back into the beta even, because you do sacrifice that assault pack, that reactor core, that grappling gun, anything that is tethered to your specialist, you need to sacrifice just so you can take a concussion, which in the grand scheme of things isn't all that great outside of, say, competitive play. So that's a little bit of the predicament right now with concussions in Blackout and why players may not be too happy with the current state of them. Now, yesterday and the few days before, there seemed to be what looked like some development in the way of the concussion case, one that I know a few of my friends have talked about already, mainly because it concerned them. My friend Ryan or Prestigious Key tweeted, "I think Blackout would be a much better place without the concussion cheese," to which Optic Midnight replied back saying 100%, and then David Vonderhaar himself replied with, "I agree with Midnight, but not Prestige, don't at me." So by all accounts, this kind of seemed like the identical messages. We thought that maybe concussions had the chance to be vaulted or completely removed, in which case the concussion-specific problem itself would be solved, right? But that unfortunately was not exactly the case. David Vonderhaar again went on the record on Reddit as of yesterday and explained the design intent, and then dropped a bomb on the passionate players that want the concussion problem solved. Simply put, concussions, how we thought maybe would be getting vaulted, that's not going to happen. They're not going to be vaulted, but they are still subject to change, but the simplest answer of completely removing them, that's off the table. Get ready for some quotes here because we got a lot of information to digest, but on a Reddit thread talking about why are concussion grenades all or nothing, David Vonderhaar first addressed saying they are all or nothing so the attacker understands if he concussed somebody or not. If it was a variable length based on a variable input of distance or attack angle or anything else, that could not easily be determined, tossed over a small hill or around a corner, etc., at all. It would be unclear to the attacker if he concussed someone or not, and for how long. I'm not arguing for or against a variable input onto the duration. That might work, talking about the solution of sort of proximity-based explosions of the concussion. That might and will cause other problems. We are debating the best way forward with concussions amongst many others. I'm simply answering the question in a literal sense. The answer is readability of the gameplay impact of concussing someone for both attacker and victim. This may not be the right length of time or any number of things, but you know exactly how long you concuss someone and how long you will be concussed. He later then continued, "We have no plans to remove them from the game. Tuning them, the AoE, duration, and what you can do and cannot do when stunned is one option among other many under evaluation. Let me be super honest with you, this is always a slippery slope, so you walk it carefully. You already had 2 counters with the trophy system and the reinforced perk, so you can also carry your own and concuss the attacker. This does not invalidate anyone's opinion or perspective. I have a saying, you cannot argue with how someone feels, so I don't. You feel how you feel, I respect it, and if I didn't, I wouldn't post about it. We must reinforce any major tuning position with actual game data and our own perspective. If it turns out that a majority of victories were created because of a concussion grenade, the reinforced perk is spawning less than it should, the average KD of concussion grenade players is above the average trend line, or any number of data science-backed evidence of the OP level, they will get nerfed some more. It's safe to say we are looking at it and talking it over." And the final mention of the topic he ends up giving is, "Like before, I am answering the questions without any judgment for or against. I do so without any lens of multiplayer or Blackout when answering. It's a design philosophy conversation, which I always enjoy personally when both sides are treating each other with respect. Hard counters invalidate both pieces of gameplay content, and if you fully counter something, you then stop taking the thing that can be fully countered, and then you stop taking the counter. That gameplay type and style then ends up getting invalidated entirely over time and removes depth from the game. I personally don't like that because I personally believe the game is much richer with more than just straight gunplay. As to your notes above about not being able to fight back, please understand that I totally get it. We just haven't decided what we are going to do about that yet." So key takeaway from this is that, well, they're not going to be removed, but they are open to suggestions and they are open to making adjustments as time goes on. And maybe a couple of months down the line, concussions aren't a problem anymore in Blackout, but what can we do for right now? Well, all that we can do as a player base is simply provide the data, the feedback, and suggestions. We can send our clips to David Vonderhaar. We can say, hey, this is what we think will work out better and in a manner that is constructive and civil in the same right. Vonderhaar is open to the feedback and is reasonable with the design philosophy debate. He already mentioned that some counters they're debating internally come down to, again, that proximity of the concussion, where I imagine that redesign would come down to where, say, at the edge of the effective radius, you're stunned for maybe a half second, but if it pegs you with it, then you can be stunned for the whole 7 seconds. Other feedback that I've heard has been built into an armor redesign where theoretically armor can counter. So level 3 in that theory would have no built-in tac mask, but a level 1 would have built-in tac mask. So less health protection would offer more stun protection and vice versa. So it'd be a visible trade-off that allows for a balance in some situational uses. And outside of that, simply tuning can work as well. I wasn't really thrilled when the adjustment that was made and announced to concussions was just just simply to that stack size, but instead if they turn down the stun to maybe 3 or 4 seconds, 3.5 being that halfway point, you allow for more tactical moves still on the attacker's end, but also enough time then to react as a defender and to end up potentially countering. And even if it just comes down to the spawn rates, I think I'd take a decrease in the spawn rates of Concussions and also the spawn rate increase for Reinforced. Whatever happens though, I think that it comes down to, I just think there needs to be some skill gap measures, something that allows the more skilled players to fight back in some capacity. Because as it stands right now, good or not, that player is nearly guaranteed a kill when they hit somebody with a concussion. Blackout and Battle Royale as a whole is predicated on RNG, surely, but there needs to be some level of skill that is allowed to persevere in the one aspect of the game that a player can control, that being the engagements that they end up taking or being able to fight back in. So in terms of the whole concussion debate, it seems like one chapter is closed. They're not going to be going anywhere. But as for chapter 2 of this future of the concussion grenade, we're still unsure as to what it might hold. But in terms of when it might come and what it might be tethered with, we still have other things like those camo changes and additions coming as of the next title update, so we're told by Treyarch. That's something that I, again, am gonna be guessing that is coming next Tuesday, but we don't have a specific date on that just yet. We also were told that additional echelon rankings in some regard will be coming, whether or not that's something that seasonally we get maybe say 20 per operation added in, so that there's not a whole redesign of how the ranking system works, or if it's something that they add a prestige system in, we don't exactly know, but David Vonderhaar said that yes, they're coming, but also kind of, so we don't have any real information on that either. And also, there are still the talks of potential armor reworks being possible as well, with the armor adjustments that allowed for armor scraps, and then also the nerf and time it takes to repair armor. That's something that Treyarch was vocal. They aren't done looking at how armor reacts within Blackout, and they're not done looking at what can potentially be changed in the future. So there's definitely no shortage of things that will require an update for Blackout in the near future, but it's just a matter of when and what might be coming along with it. That said, I want to let you guys know about the sort of problem within Blackout at the moment. I guess it depends on who you ask. I wanted to give you guys my thoughts, break down the entirety of the argument as a whole, and then offer up the solutions that we know won't be happening and some that still have the possibility but we don't know of just yet. So that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you have an issue with concussions in Blackout? Are you guys thinking of any solutions that you guys would like to pitch to David Vonderhaar or Treyarch if they were to see the comment section? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, multiplayer, Blackout, zombies. We got you covered the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of it interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it is, link in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, thank you all so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.